Hi, and welcome back to Money with Mac and G. I'm Ben Jones. We've got a special guest today. He was actually the managing director in over 12 different countries, which is interesting for me because of my overall voyaging around the world. But he's also worked in over 50 countries, which is really exciting. He's been successful on many fronts, and we'd like to explore just a little bit more about that path, which is a little winding, and how he got to where he got to. Go ahead and join us today for some additional time with Glenn Schischa.
Hi.
What's happening, Glenn?
Doing great.
How's your day been?
Day's been awesome. Glad we get a chance to spend time together.
Yeah, exactly. Down here in Florida, it's pretty...
Yeah, it's always awesome. It's always sunny in Florida.
And what do you call it? It's always good to get some vitamin D, especially back in Indianapolis. But we got some pretty good weather back there as well. But
you guys can keep it. Love you guys, but you guys can keep it.
70 degrees, and now you're going to be 80 in just about a week, which is pretty exciting. But really glad to have you. We're doing this on location with you, so the overall video is going to be a little bit less than what we normally see, but I think you've just got some amazing stories. I want to go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, my pleasure. You provide the wine, you got the time.
Woo! We got some wine here, baby. But we usually start a little bit back. You come from the East Coast. You had an interesting
New York IBM towns
setup. Yeah. Interesting setup from when you were born and raised there. And I know you had a pretty early tragedy early on, which is seems to be one of the things that touched your life and made you who you are. Part of what made you who you are. Right?
Definitely tragedy affects you, and you have to decide whether it's going to define you.
Yeah. So you lost your dad and your brother in a plane crash.
Dad and my brother in a plane crash.
Unexpected.
They went to go skiing up in Maine when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I was supposed to actually be on the plane, but the plane was overweight, so they left me behind, and it crashed on the way back. So kind of weird stuff.
That is.
So.
And I know how there's like pivotal times in your life which changes, and I know that a number of the podcasts that we've just recently done, it's been some interesting twists that have happened. But
you grow up fast.
Grow up fast.
Yeah.
And
so my mom,
your sister, right?
My mom took it a little hard, so I ended up having a few more responsibilities in the family, and
which is to be expected, right? I mean, she lost her husband and her child,
yeah.
And so that's
so she kind of it was tough. So for her, and you're young, and so you end up being resilient, and you find a way, and
Do you think that helped you as you kind of went further along, like being able to get over tremendous adversity, or?
What's interesting is I think it taught me at a very early age life of service, because
really
in our family for survival, I was taking care and helping my sister, whether it's making the meals, making sure she did the homework and all that good stuff. And then of course my mom, because my mom kind of locked her in herself in a room for like ever. And so, yeah.
And how old were you again?
About 11 or so.
Mac and G are 12 right now.
Yeah, I know. It's
couldn't even
crazy.
imagine it.
Yeah, well, when you have something like that and your kids get to be that age, and what everybody who's listening on the call has had some experience where their kids get to be at an age that's equal to a milestone that you had in your life, and then it's a major reflection moment, because you kind of say, "Oh God, when I was that age," So that's
And you're looking at it from that perspective, and we haven't told everybody, but we did do the podcast with your daughter Katie, and she's 12, which is really weird because
13 now. Yeah.
Oh my, that's right, because they're 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
So she's 13 now, but you have twin daughters, and I've got twin boy girls, and it was funny because remember we also had Cheryl that had twins as well. So like 4 of us that were over in Europe together.
Yeah, we were all drinking the same water, obviously.
It was, wasn't it? Because 3 of the 4 that were over there all had twins. And so they're getting to the point, or they just surpassed the point at which you're trying to get through this as a very young boy, and leads you to a life of service, which I can attest to.
And so maybe because most of the work I do and where I always derive pleasure was helping others. Going into markets that hadn't seen success, helping them to get, some glimmers of success, build some hope, and get them to believe that they can succeed, and then watching and supporting them as they got the success. And I was always like, okay, how was, where did that come from? And it wasn't this Mother Teresa thing. I think it all, it all came from the fact that at a very early age, I just identified this role of helping and supporting others, and it was a continued carry on. And
it's a little bit of a void, right? There was a void when that happened, and you had to help in order to keep things going.
I had to fill it. Yeah, we had to eat. Homework needed to be done. We needed to go to school. So
because you're, and we'll get there, but you can be a tough businessman. But the thing that I've always seen about you is that sometimes people misread that you're trying to help them and to push them. And I've seen people succeed because of the fact that you've given them opportunities along the way. Because we've worked together and known each other for how long has it been now?
20 years,
25 probably.
Yeah,
25 years.
We're still talking. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I still remember the first time I met you in London. I tell all my friends, it's like, they ask, hey, how did you guys meet? And I go, well, the first time I met him, he was a complete jerk for 2 months. And then after that, he was like, hey.
I was the same guy. You guys just figured out that I was busting your chops to help you, not to beat you up.
Yeah, so. That's right. But so you're young, you're trying to get through all of this, you're filling this void, figure out that it's a life of service that you kind of have worked through. But you get to a point where you're going to college. And where'd you go to college?
North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Go Heels.
I'm letting you actually say that.
Yep.
Okay,
I got to get these here.
And so you go there, and I know you're a diehard
Any year we
fan.
beat Duke is a good year.
That's right. And so you go to North Carolina, you graduate, and then what you get out of school, and I think you had some pretty interesting jobs right after getting out of school, right?
Yeah, it's been some really great adventures. So I started out for about a year and a half working for a holding company that had a lot of money, and it was very, very interesting because they were looking to consolidate some fragmented industries. And so we were going out and buying brands and basically buying them for their customer bases, and looking to close down the plants to find efficiency and profitability on these 100-year-old businesses and stuff.
Wow.
Which quite honestly was really super heavy for like a 20-some-odd-year-old. You're going in, you're meeting this plant manager who's been working there for like 25 years, but your organization is wanting to close it down, and you're going in to survey where this production could be moved.
That has got to be a tremendous stress, but like that burden you said was heavy, and that's like a great.
And so that was. I looked and I said, I don't want to do that for a living,
Did you know what you wanted to do when you got out of school? Like, you got that job, but were you thinking, I want to do that. I want to consolidate, businesses or what?
Well, it was really interesting. Well, it was really interesting because I had this entrepreneurial experience that I had a memorabilia business, sports memorabilia business, baseball cards, all that sort of stuff.
Which is all cool now, right?
Yeah, and that time it was cool again. Everything in between kind of really sucked. But, I made quite a bit of money on that, put myself through college, which was fantastic, had a lot in the bank, had a nice car, from all that. And our family was kind of a humble,
So you're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So we did
school, car, everything.
Yeah, I had a few people working with me, and we'd set up at the shows, and do pretty well. So that was kind of neat. But I knew, towards the end of college, you could just see the curve of that industry. And everyone thought, I was going to open up a card shop and do this and do that. And I was like, no, I just see the trend lines on this thing. And
so you're a thinker, just to begin with. You're like seeing
strategic, yeah.
Strategic,
yes. So yeah, I like to look at things at about 30, that 30,000 feet, and kind of see where everything's playing. But I think with my strength is that I can also get into the trenches.
I was going to say, that's the amazing part of it.
And so I can kind of wear those dual hats at the same time and keep juggling both of them. And so that was it. And, I knew that industry was going to be very short-lived. It was just showing signs. And so I decided, and I basically blew out everything I owned, just about, as much as I could, and moved on. And
blew out, you mean you sold?
Sold. And sure enough, about a year and a half, it all crashed after that. So
but you're really an entrepreneur at heart, right?
Yeah.
Because every time I've seen you, you've go and you have a corporate job, but you've been like totally separated from corporate, and you're doing your own thing, and you're kind of running it.
lot of people, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of people think an entrepreneur is having their own business and stuff like that. And I love that. And I'll be honest, I prefer that environment. It's much more rewarding and you have more control, but you can be an entrepreneur within an organization, within a big
100%.
company. And a lot of people don't realize that just because you're working for a big corporation doesn't mean you can't have creativity, freedom, and feel and have ownership, because that's what a company wants. And every company would dream to have employees that have ownership of what they're working on and what they do.
And I think that's a beautiful point, because you get the opportunity to kind of test your chops and to build them, because you're using other people's money.
Yeah, make mistakes on other people's money. That's beautiful.
But I can remember the same thing, is that if you're a person that likes to actually get things done, you're creative in the way that you look at things, that you bring up new ideas. Normally, most companies 100% love that. They're just like, because they're trying to grow, and they can't always grow by just expanding what they currently have. They got to come up with new ideas. And that's the one thing I always appreciated about you, is you looked at everything so differently, and from a strategic perspective that was just so different than.
And I think in my career, I've been really fortunate, whether it's been at Disney or Tupperware or wherever else, is that there were a lot of people in the organizations that tried to play it safe, keep it secure. They didn't want to lose a job. Yeah. And I was exceptionally rewarded for taking risk within an organization. Right. And that's credit to the leadership, because the leadership in the organization saw that, rewarded it, and not only rewarded it, they fueled it.
Embraced it,
and fueled it.
You.
And that's where you saw at those times that those were occurring in those organizations, they were getting great success because of that.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just me, it's just numerous, you know. And as long as those people were rewarded to take risks, to try new things, to think out of the box, and to give things a try and either succeed or fail and not get punished for failure, but get rewarded for learning. And doing something better the next time. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Because I remember when we were in Europe, I mean, the same people, I like to see the same people, because they were just so, what do you call it? They just brought up your level of creativity and everything. You were one of them. I always loved Guillermo Caamaño in Spain, and then you had other people in different directions.
He's living a tough life right now in the Canary Islands. Yeah.
But he's having a great time. But from your perspective, though, can you tell us a little bit more about Disney? Everybody's always fascinated with Disney, and I think you've got some very good insights. You're living down here in Orlando, right? And you've been able to be exposed to Disney for years, and then you had this job coming out. It was after your MBA, right?
No, before my MBA, actually. Okay. So after I finished up with this heavy stuff, and I decided I just wanted to change, I actually drove out to the West Coast, and was fortunate enough to get a job with Disney in their headquarters.
So hold on a second. So you got this other job after undergrad?
Undergrad. Did it for about a year or so, and there were some funky things that were going on there. And again, strategically, I just thought, I didn't like the direction they were going. I don't think they were, in my opinion, that organization was making decisions for the long term as compared to
not a cultural fit for your values in your life.
Exactly.
So you're there for a year and a half, and then you said, "Hey, I want to try something else." And this is one of the things to stress, because you're not going to die by going out to California, right? And you took this risk because people see it as a risk, and what we're trying to encourage people is, hey,
and everybody in their 20s. You can do those, and you can do those over and over, and you can do those and screw up 5 times, and still get on the right track and race forward and have a great life.
Absolutely.
So, it's the ones that are too afraid to do that, which is the shame, because they just miss out.
Coulda, shoulda.
Yeah,
it's kind of like terrible. So you get in your car and you're going to California.
Yeah, packed up my Toyota Camry. And why a Toyota Camry? Because that car I told you I had, which I was so proud of, the Pontiac Firebird that I bought brand new with the Sport, that darn thing didn't work one single day. It was winking at me because one of the lights was up and one of the lights was always down. They could never fix that thing. So my next car, I said, I don't care how it looks or what it does. I had what I thought was the cool one in high school. I just wanted to run, reliable and to run. And so hence Toyota Camry.
Any problems driving across the country?
No problems driving across the country. Those were the old days that, you had your books on tape. Yes. Tape.
The original Audible.
The original Audible. You stuck your cassettes in there.
And you just listen all the way out there. Can you even remember which book you actually listened to on the way out there?
They were all mysteries.
Oh, mysteries.
They had to be mysteries because when you're driving, the suspense kept you awake.
Yes. Yeah. And so you're doing this. Did you drive through all night? What'd you do?
Oh, well, it was like a 2 or 3 day drive. So I would go, I don't know, 15, 20 hours. And then when I was ready to crash whatever Motel 6 was nearby, you pulled in, you worried a little bit because your car's like completely packed. You can't see through the back window.
Did I ever tell you the story when I sold my motorcycle and I had like 25 grand and I kind of put it down my pants so nobody would steal it.
Nobody would see it. But we won't get into that.
Yeah, it's really that low.
Yeah, that's your
so anyway, you're in California. Yeah, I need to digress back there. So you're going to California.
So I drove all the way out until I hit the beach.
Yeah.
And
you love the beach, just for everybody listening.
I found this little place and I found a room with a bunch of roommates in Manhattan Beach and was there, and then about 2 weeks later, I ended up with a job over at Disney up in Burbank at the headquarters. So,
and so, what were you? Were you drawing, animating stuff? What were you doing? Business background.
Yeah, business background, strong finance, accounting. So I started out in audit with them.
Right.
And so we did anything from compliance audits with the Disney Channel to production audits, things like that. So started out with that, and I ended up before I left running the Dallas and Los Angeles audit group. So that kept me busy. But
the interesting part, though, is what is a compliance audit? I know what they are, but what is a compliance audit and what is a operational audit? Or
production audit.
Production audit.
Yeah, well, production audit, you've got a TV show or a movie and it's got a budget. And
any ones that you can mention that you looked at?
No.
Oh, not that you can mention or not that you remember?
Not that I can mention. So, yeah. And they've got a budget. And
you're looking at where the money's spent,
and reviewing it all to make sure they're hitting budget, and then seeing, which is really true, an air-conditioned doghouse for his poodle on set, and having to say, well, I'm not quite sure that was really in the budget and maybe shouldn't be paid for by, So that was that. And then on compliance audit, you had to... we had a lot of contracts, whether it was licensing for wherever you saw the Disney logo, but mainly what we spent most of our time on was cable. The Disney Channel was a pay service at that time.
So licensing, though, for people that don't know, is you give someone the right to sell, like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or whatever, to put it on
the Disney image on a T-shirt or whatever else.
And they have to pay for that.
And they have to pay, let's say, 10 or 11%. And all the companies have all the characters and stuff have licensing agreements. And then, of course, they have minimum volumes as well, because Disney's not just going to let me sell 5 T-shirts and pay them $8.
So it has to be big enough, so like 100,000 deal that they know that they're going to get. And so you're doing this in the compliance audits, when Disney was paid for as a separate channel, which, for people listening, it could be Disney Plus, right? Well, but it's a little bit different back then.
Because back then it was like HBO and everything. It was a separate channel. It was not a part of your basic service, and so people had to sign up and pay $9.95.
And so the cable operators who dispersed the channels to the households in their area, they would charge for the Disney Channel, and then they would actually pay money back to Disney for the content.
On an honor system.
On an honor system. Yeah. That is where the problem comes in.
And so in order to keep people honest, you
go around and
do some friendly audits just to keep checking to help keep people honest. It's very similar to an industry right now is, pre-COVID was the movie theaters, because the movie theaters pay a percentage of revenue. That's how they work with the studios.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they pay a percentage.
Well, I knew that they paid a percentage, but I didn't know it was kind of on the honor system. But
so they pay. Well, it has to be pays a percentage of your revenue. They may submit a billing system, but who says it's the right billing system, the real billing system? So then you have to have your people come in, meet, and number one, you have to check the billing system, but because there may be 2 or 3 billing systems, you have to talk with them. You have to go through their promotional material to see what's really happening there and to make sure everything's being captured right,
But I love the story when you said, hey, sometimes they offer like, hey, we're going to give you Showtime and the Disney Channel, right? But
let's do the good one, because I've actually seen that, and I can say it because I don't work for them. At the time,
Yeah.
Disney, Showtime,
HBO.
HBO, Playboy Channel were all a part of the page services.
Yeah.
And they had this promotion that for $9.99, choose your ears. And it was a print ad that showed the Playboy Channel, the bunny ears, Playboy Channel and Disney Channel.
Oh, no.
And they let them choose their ears. Or you could have both ears.
Okay.
The naughty and nice.
Yeah.
For like $12.99.
Okay.
And then first off, there was a rule in Disney that maybe we should not be showing up in the same ad. And I get it,
Well, we dealt with Disney a couple, and they are really strict on some of their stuff.
Yeah, it's like, and okay, this will probably get added out too, but in that age when Disney was licensing everything, I think there was even Mickey and Minnie toilet paper. Now, just think, did Walt really want that toilet paper to be used, So,
I got a lot of jokes, but I got to keep those to myself.
We got to keep those. So
you're doing compliance audits,
doing all that sort of stuff, which is fun.
I guess my point with that is you had 2 channels that you could pick, like 2 channels for $12.99 or whatever a month, and they would allocate a lesser amount to Disney instead of like right down the middle. Mm-hmm. So because they owed Disney higher licensing fees or higher fees for their content. And so you would audit that, and that would be like, oh, you can't do that. You gotta split it.
If each one was $10, maybe Playboy they had to pay $1 to.
Yes.
And Disney they would have to pay 50%.
Right.
Okay. But when they sold these 2 combined for $12, they would run Playboy at $10.
Right.
So they paid $1 there. And then they would run
Disney $2, which would be $1 as well.
And we'd have to go back and say, well, maybe it's like $6 each, and then let's work off of that number.
Yeah.
And when you got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, that number is big.
Big.
And sometimes it was just innocent, and sometimes it was smart.
Did you ever have to turn off channel?
Yeah, we always joked about that, and so because sometimes the cable operator would start to not be very happy, that he owes us like 200,000 or 300,000. And we're Disney, so we can't really get too hard or too tough with threatening legal. You don't want to behave like that. But at the same time, you want your money, you want what's fair, because that's what the world is always about, what's fair, And so, there's a couple of stories where, you're talking to these cable operators, and you have to realize one thing: Disney is tremendously powerful because it's not just a service for your kid. It is your child's babysitter.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And we fell into that.
So if you cut HBO or you cut Playboy like we were talking about,
okay.
They find a way to get whatever they want and they need. You cut Disney within, if the Disney signal goes off within about 5 minutes, your phones are just inundated.
Like
what the hell's going
calls.
on, So yeah, you just sit there, and sometimes if it was getting really bad, you just say, okay, listen.
You owe me so much.
I got my hand on the button. I'm going to have to cut your service. If we don't see a check, by this time, I'm going to have to cut your service. And then you start calling him and say, okay, I'm looking at the button right now. And he's like, no, don't press it.
That could be just so powerful because a lot of people don't. I know the mothers and fathers who are listening, they're going to completely understand.
Yeah.
You cut it and you had cable and you can see it. But now, with the internet.
And of course, they blame it on us. You cut it. The guy sends you a wire in 10 minutes. And his call center's, we don't know what's wrong with Disney. We're working on it.
Exactly. So you had a really good experience at Disney.
Yes, that was phenomenal experience.
Probably found out like tight ways to to market and advertise. You found out a very set up way that they do things. Like you learned a whole bunch of constructs or frameworks on how to do things. You probably learned a ton of
Well, it was really interesting because I spent a lot of time with cable. And that was at that time, cable was a very fragmented industry. Yes. So it was creative, entrepreneurial mom and pops everywhere, in every little town having their own cable business.
Right.
And you go out and meet them. And, the first thing you did when you went was to really build relationships, because relationships help you to empathize. It also helps you to leverage. So, so you build relationships and you hear all their stories, and every single one of them had these great stories about living their dreams, and it was really awesome. But also you saw this industry, and it was completely fragmented, and you saw people like John Malone, who ran, and you guys can Google him, phenomenal guy. He ran Cablevision Systems, I believe, or Cablevision Industries, or whatever it's called. And that's part of what he did. His vision for cable was that it was going to be like cars, and everything else are going to be like 3, 4, 5 massive operators.
Really?
That
cool.
were going to, and so there became this, while we were there, it became this huge, dramatic move from him to buy up, and everyone scrambling to buy up all these little operators.
Right.
And
the consolidation of businesses is a big thing.
It's a huge market.
Individually, let's say you have 50 of them. Individually, they're worth $1 million a pop. That's 50 million. But if you can consolidate, meaning you can acquire all of them, and then have a whole bunch of leverage or power that, hey, I own half of the state of California for Comcast. That turns from 50 million to maybe, say, 400 million, 500 million?
Because what ends up happening is if you've got 50 little cable networks in every city, you have 50 accountants.
Yes.
You have 50 lines people. You have 50 marketing people. You have 50
people,
admin people. And through the consolidation, you get tremendous efficiency, which all goes to the bottom line. And if it goes to the bottom line, your value of your company, which is a multiple of your bottom line, goes up tremendously.
Exactly.
And that's how that's how a lot of these companies through consolidation can create value.
Absolutely. So you learned a ton, it sounds like.
So it was really interesting, really fascinating. Absolutely.
And then, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and so there was a lot of opportunity for creativity there. I mean, I think my claim to fame moment was...
I want to hear this. You never said this.
We were right. So we used to go onto the lot for lunch, but we were also, because I don't know, as a funny agreement, we could go on to the Warner Brothers lot.
Oh, cool.
And eat lunch there.
Nice.
And I'll never forget me and my friends going over to the Warner lot, eating lunch there, and like 3 tables down is Michelle Pfeiffer in her cat outfit from Batman.
Yes,
okay.
Yes,
Let's all take a moment of breather here. So,
okay.
yeah, 23-year-old, and I was not good with the ladies, so that was quite a moment for me.
I've seen it, folks.
So anyway, so that was really fabulous.
Really cool experience.
Really great experience. Neat. And as I was trying to figure out, next steps, I was being groomed in that channel. And quite honestly, I wanted a bit more of an entrepreneurial opportunity. I love sales, marketing, people. And I wanted to start moving out of finance and accounting. Yes. And so I was trying to figure out how to do that. One of the best ways to do that is to hit a reset. And you can hit a reset by going and reinventing yourself with graduate school. So I decided I wanted to go get my MBA.
Right.
And
where'd you go?
And well, what was interesting is Disney got me into the executive program at UCLA, and they were actually paid for it, and I was there signed up. But there were 2 problems there. First off, was that I would have to sign an agreement for I think about 3 years. That it was a 3-year program. And then I wasn't allowed to leave Disney for 3 years. So that was about a 6-year commitment. And like many things in life, a little bit of commitment issues. That was quite a long time for a 22-year-old. I am a guy, 23-year-old, So that was issue number 1. And issue number 2 was that I was in this finance audit. All it would do within this organization would probably put me in deeper. And it would be really hard to make a pivot over into a sales, marketing, and leadership role.
Finance, particularly.
Exactly.
They're like, wait a minute, you're an accounting finance guy, no sales marketing.
So that was kind of a free ride, and that was really hard to turn up. But
you did, and what did you do?
So I went back to Carolina because, I'm Carolina Blue. It worked for me undergrad. I loved it there. It was a great environment. I knew a lot of the teachers. I admire the place. And I thought, okay, that system worked for me. Why take a chance at some other place, you know? I did have another choice that I wanted to go, but I didn't do they didn't believe how serious I was because I didn't do a site visit. My little lesson for everybody is when you go to an MBA, you got to show up for a day and do a site visit and show you're serious. Because I really wanted to go to UVA in Charlottesville and didn't do a site visit. That was the only place I got dinged.
But the interesting part is nowadays, you know, a lot of this MBA and, you know, subsequent college, you know, it's a little bit in question, a little bit up in the air, and people need to really look at it. But if you are thinking about going back to get your MBA, yeah, definitely.
It's an investment. It's definitely, you know, and it's something to consider. And of course, Carolina was one of the more inexpensive, so I didn't get out with a lot of debt. That was highly influential. Right. When you start looking at things like a few of the others, Northwestern and stuff, you know, you start out with a higher salary, but boy, you're really bogged down with debt. And that was important to me. Part of my DNA is I don't like to owe anybody. You know, I was a saver, you know, and
me too.
And so it worked.
Chicago paid for it. You know,
so
mine was a little bit different.
Yeah. So went to Carolina. I always dreamed about doing something internationally. It was just always a fascinating dream of mine.
Dude,
and Carolina had an international program. I dove in at the very beginning into marketing, entrepreneurship, and international, and that's where I focused.
I say it's crazy just because I've known you, and I've only known you from an international perspective, and crossing like lines with you in Orlando and Germany and UK and all these other places, and then to hear you say, "I wanted to go international," that just makes me laugh.
Well, the thing is, I mean, because everybody knows my history now, I didn't get on a damn plane until I was like 19 years old.
Oh, I was older than that. I was 20. What was I? 25.
I was 19 years old. My friend had a second house in St. Croix, which was bigger than my first house.
In St. Croix, oh my gosh.
And I remember, and of course it was Pan Am at the time because Pan Am was still in business. And I got,
me if you can.
And, I got to the airport and I'm expecting this jet because I've made it in my mind. It's my first flight. I know the history of our family with planes. And I'm thinking this big jet, and this thing's like a 16,
a little
puddle hopper, and I'm just like going, oh God, can I get on this thing? So, and I was much of a drinker. I can't say that. So I went to the bar, had about 2 or 3 screwdrivers and said, okay, if it happens, it happens. I'm getting on this thing now. So so you figure out how to overcome your fears. Sometimes you need a little help, and mine was Smirnoff.
That's right. So, that's how you started.
So I had never really been on planes and stuff, but I just always had this dream of seeing the world. And I wanted an opportunity to do that. So
where did you start? Because you go back to get your MBA from
got my MBA. I did a long summer internship in Thailand, which was fantastic. So it was about 2-3 months in Thailand.
And that's a little bit shocking because for a lot of people, you know, Europe is kind of the first step. Before you go to Asia, Africa, or otherwise, Europe is the easiest one to make the jump. And for me, that's where I had to go because it was too shocking for me. But go ahead.
So went to Thailand, worked an internship for an investment banking firm. And so we were looking at proposals every single day about casinos. Casinos in Cambodia on some famous waterfalls there. We were doing the first golf course in Vietnam, in the capital of North Vietnam. We were, you know, and our strategy was to find jobs and pair it up with Singaporean money. So, you know, and that was really interesting, very exciting. It was kind of like 24/7 work. You know, you worked until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Big deal.
2 or 3 hours of sleep. You know, you take a shower, take a Red Bull, and you go right back at it. So.
But you're looking at like deal flow, but you're also doing the accounting and finance thing because you're looking at the numbers to make sure that they make sense.
But a lot of it, you're also, there wasn't a lot of experience there on pitch books and stuff. So you're helping them to build the financials, the P&Ls, you know, so you're going in a little deeper than just, you know, reviewing things. So that was kind of fun and exciting, gave you that taste and that feel. And, you know, whenever we had a day off or 2 days off, we'd try and explore somewhere, you know, head up to Chiang Mai.
What? Were you hooked then? And you were heading up to Chiang Mai or wherever this place is? Were you like hooked on travel then? Or
Oh yeah. So that was like, yeah, this was right. I am on, this is what I want to do. I want to experience other cultures. I want to eat other food, all these international foods. I want to get the bad stomachs from eating the wrong stuff and learn from my mistakes.
Because when I was in France...
Zantac, I should highly tell you, Zantac was my friend. Some people take multivitamins in the morning. We all took huge doses
I always
of
had a
Zantac.
Cipro with me just in case I got any like bugs in me and it would clean me out. But France.
That was
French
the miracle
food.
cure.
Oh, cream sauces, blue cheese.
SmithKline, Glaxo. Well, it used to be Glaxo. Now it's good. Oh man, they seriously impacted my world. So I am grateful to them.
Did you have to use that Disney toilet paper? No, considerably. But it was great though because everybody had their fallback as far as like what medications they took with them, and I always had mine. I can't even remember what it was. Tums always worked really well.
So I came back, totally focused on that my second year in graduate school, and I was going international. Period. No doubt about it. I actually, you don't even know this. I actually got I had 2 jobs coming out. One was with the Bulgarian American Fund, and it was a $25 million fund sponsored by the U.S. government to help in Bulgaria.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it was kind of like the Peace Corps for MBA. So
sure.
it was playing in. I got my international. I got to help people, and what you were doing was you had funds, and you were trying to help local companies there convert from a communist mindset and structure of business to
capitalistic.
Yeah. So it sounded really cool, really awesome. You were getting paid like, I think it was like they were giving you housing and like $250 a month for like 2 years or something. And I didn't care about the money. It just sounded like really awesome. I was spiked. It was everything I wanted to do, So I was really close to doing that. And the other was American Airlines because they owned Sabre System at the time. And
Sabre System, is that not the recruiting, the
Sabre System
reservation system?
Is the first really super kick butt
I do remember that.
reservation system. And they actually spun it off, and they were looking to go to Asia and like start up in China, and there was a whole team that I could get involved in and do that. So that was really exciting as well. And so I was kind of struggling between those two. At the same time, again, it's this life of service because my dad had passed away. Right. My grandmother, who was about 90 years old at the time, I was kind of her guardian. So I was taking care of her and, keeping an eye on her. I was really struggling between following my dreams and respecting what I promised my grandfather on his deathbed, that I would take care of my grandmother. So I was trying to figure out how I could do that from 10, 12 time zones away in Asia. Europe is a puddle jump, but Asia was something else. So I was struggling with trying to make a decision there. I got a call. I was very good friends with the people at Career Placement. I got a call that they had an opening on one of their interview lists for the day, and it looks really bad when a school can't fill up all the slots.
I completely agree.
And they were like, "Oh, you interview well, go ahead." And I'm like, I don't have time for this, but if you give me $1 for a beer, because beers were $1 a piece, that I thought for $1 I could put on a show for an hour.
Sure, you could just go in and do it.
So it turned out it was Tupperware, direct selling. What the heck do I know about direct selling? It's a woman's business, and sure, I only grew up around women, but that's
and you liked women.
Exactly, that was the extent. I liked women, but I couldn't seem to get them to like me. Like, this is going to really work, and I didn't know jack anything about all that. So
what made you think that was even interesting at all? Because the Bulgaria thing,
there's nothing interesting about it but $1 a beer. So you go there on a fluke. So I show up at the interview room. It's on campus.
Sure,
so show up on the interview room, and I meet this lady, Jennifer. I think she's working at Verizon now in West Palm. Anyway, great lady.
I know Jennifer?
Yeah, Jennifer Moline. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Jennifer Moline came to interview me on campus. She's awesome, from New Zealand. Sorry. The Australians are gonna. New Zealand's gonna be pissed at me because they almost the same thing, but I did.
Exactly.
But I was thinking it. So she came in, and when you go through all of those interviews, and I actually had my wall of shame, I should tell you, because I was an interview slut. I had every rejection letter up on the wall.
Why
I have
not?
a photograph of like
You have to remember
50
that.
rejection letters up on the wall that I put up on. And my goal was to actually get as many as I could, you know. So
You got to get through 9 no's before you get to a yes.
exactly. So you just keep going in. But a lot of them were trained recruiters. And so, you know, it was a cookie cutter approach. And I just couldn't fit into that with my entrepreneurial sense and my creativity and fitting into those structures. So I met her and we had a great conversation. And I was like, wow, no, she was pretty cool. And then I get this call that they want me to come down to Orlando to meet with.
Make sure to come back next week as we finish our discussion in our limited series about successful individuals telling their stories in their own words.